This Monday and next week is going to be insane for the stock market overall. We got some tariffs and some more potential tariff deals coming out soon that can move the market overall. And we have a lot of other news to talk about that you guys do not want to miss out on. I'm going to be getting you guys ready for Monday and next week. Comment down below ready if you guys are pumped up for this week. There's a lot to cover. So without further ado, let's get started. So first off, man, the stock market is indeed a little bit red. And with that being said, man, August doesn't really look too good for the stock market overall. Honestly, man, especially for the second presidency term. And honestly, man, it's been down. And now we have next up Trump for this year. We're going to be seeing if we might be negative for August. Last August, we did have a decent V-shaped recovery. So I'm going to be seeing if we can form a V-shaped recovery, maybe go to the downside even more. We might even have a Black Monday. So please be careful while trading, especially if the stocks start gapping down. We might get a big buy zone back. And then honestly, kind of what we had on Friday where we had stocks gap down and then they made like a little gap upwards throughout the day, but then they sold off. I'm just looking at Nvidia and the overall stock market. If you look at SPY just sold off like the whole day, and it was kind of insane to think about. But with that being said, man, we have a lot to cover. So let's get started with that. And then we're going to be giving you guys some supports and resistance. Yesterday's video dug more into Friday's news and what that means for the stock market. So if you guys are interested in that, you guys go check that out. In this video, we're going to be summarizing that news until like towards the end of the video. But we're going to be getting into, what to expect for next week and how to make the most money. But welcome back to the channel. Let's get straight into it. Here's your market game plan and key things you need to know and need to be watching for the week of August 4th, 2025. So like I was saying, man, last week was pretty choppy with the market trying to find its direction after a huge run up. And that run up was insane, literally like 60 plus days. We did see some profit taking in big tech and a little bit of rotation in some more of the beaten down sectors. But that was last week. This week, it's about one thing and one thing only: tariffs and basically maybe some data and what is going to happen after that jobs data came out, and potentially some news on the Fed, because we are at a 90% chance of a cut in September, which is insane because before this was at like 45%. So there's a lot of things that can really move the market. Mainly people are probably just watching trade, and earnings is going to be big too. We have Palantir and AMD. We're going to be talking more about that a little bit later, but we do have a lot that can potentially move the market. And honestly, man, it is going to be insane. And I'm very, very pumped to see where this market goes and where it pushes us to. With that being said, man, let's talk about the stock market calendar. So overall, man, Monday is going to be a little bit of a chill day. We just got factory orders. Tuesday, we have the trade deficit, PMI, ISM. And then Wednesday, we have a speech coming out. Not really anything major on Wednesday. Thursday, we do have initial jobless claims, productivity, labor costs, wholesale inventories, another speech, and then consumer credit. Friday is going to be chill as well. So I think Thursday is probably going to be the biggest day of the week to be watching, and it might even move the market a little bit. Now talking about earnings for next week, Monday, we do have Palantir. Palantir, I'm very, very pumped about. People are indeed pumping up Palantir too, saying that they're going to beat expectations. So the good thing about Palantir, if we do beat, we might see Nvidia and some other stocks like AI stocks spike up because of this. And then the very next day, we do have AMD, which can also move Nvidia as well if they beat. I feel like AMD can still beat expectations, especially I feel like they're still undervalued for what they do. We also do have Supermicro reporting as well too. So honestly, man, if all three of these can beat, we could probably see an upside in Nvidia and some other AI stocks as well, and especially just in these stocks in general. I personally have some AMD and Palantir for my long term, and I'm very, very pumped to see how it moves. But on Monday, we do have Hims and Hers and some other ones, but I'm not really like trading any of these. We do have Pfizer on Tuesday, so if you guys are invested in Pfizer, keep that on your radar. Wednesday, we have Uber, Shopify, McDonald's. If you guys have McDonald's, didn't even know Six Flags had a stock, but they have a stock, so they're reported earnings as well. Thursday, we have D-Wave. D-Wave was kind of popular before. It might be still. Celsius as well. You've seen a little bit of a big sell-off and then, kind of a rally. Lilly, and then Sony. Sony potentially might be big. SoundHound, we did come out with some more things on their deal with NVIDIA overall, and is kind of bringing SoundHound up right now. And we do have Tempest. I'm very, very pumped to see how Tempest moves. And that's basically the earnings calendar, what to watch for next week overall with data and calendar. But with that being said, man, let's get to some news that happened, I guess, mainly on Friday. But one thing to talk about, like I brought up before, keep in mind that August and September is pretty bearish months for the stock market overall. But last August, we did have a V-shaped recovery, and then in September we saw it off again. So I'm very, very pumped to see if we can get a V-shaped recovery in this one too, because you can make a lot of money to the upside, downside first, and then make some money to the upside. Put your profits into that. Don't risk too much. So don't risk too much. We did get some tariffs come out basically Friday night. I think Friday night or Thursday night. I forgot, whatever the first was. But we did get some tariffs that came out, did move the market a decent amount. I think it was Thursday night. But here goes the tariffs if you guys want to screenshot this list as well. And then we do have some other news with the labor. The jobs report wasn't really accurate. And literally hours afterwards, he fired the person that does the statistics commissioner. And this is kind of insane because he fired her the same exact day. And that is honestly insane. And then after that, we did get a Fed governor basically resigns. And honestly, this is insane. And this is opening up a spot to reshape the Fed. So maybe somebody more with Trump can get in. And honestly, it doesn't really look too good. Speaking of the job numbers, they didn't really print too good. And the revised didn't really look too good neither. So it did move the market overall. But with that all being said, this is a key indicator that the Fed watches. So we were up at that 90% chance of a cut in September. So we really just have to see what Jerome does, if he does decide to finally cut, and or maybe he just, stands on business, whatever he's doing right now, and he's not going to cut it all. And then we also had, a U.S. nuclear submarines in response to ex-Russians, president's foolish talks, basically. So President Trump sent some submarines basically to make sure that it wasn't just foolish talk, just to show that U.S. stands on business. But you can watch oil and gold on this one. If it does get a little bit more serious. With that all being said, man, let's get to some supports and resistance and some plays that I'm watching. We sped ran through the news today. That's insane. We got a more in-depth video for yesterday on Saturday. That's the when we do the more in-depth video. So if you guys are interested in, learning a little bit more, I have more intel on that. I'm just trying to get you guys ready for next week. So first off, I'm going to be watching AMD. They do have their earnings. I'm not going to be trading pre-earnings, but post-earnings potentially. We might have some great earnings and then maybe bring the stock back up to the upside. But with that all being said, I'm going to be watching that 175, 177.5, 180, and that 183.5 to that 185 level to the upside for AMD. If we do start inching down lower and this sell-off does continue, I'm going to be looking at that 168.5, 166, 163, and that 160 level. Keep in mind that low-key, we have been following like history and how stocks moved, history-wise. So this V-shaped recovery might form and it might look pretty decent in the long term. With that being said, man, Boeing, you get a lot of orders and stuff like that. They beat expectations, but they sold off a decent amount. So if we do start going upwards with Boeing, I'm going to be looking at 225, 227.5, 230, 233.5, and that 235 level. To the downside, I'm going to be watching that 220, 218.5, 215, and that 213.5 to that 210 level for Boeing. Please take your time. NVIDIA, man, NVIDIA is indeed going to the downside. This could be one play that you could scope out to the downside, maybe even hitting, 170, lower than 170, maybe even down to 165 if you get a greater sell-off with this one. But if we do start inching to the upside, look at that 173.5, 175, 177.5, and that 180 level flat. To the downside, if we do start selling off, watch that 170. If we break below that, look at 168.5, 167.5, and that 165 level to the downside. I'm going to have my patience with this one, but I might play some put options on NVIDIA. Just depends on how it moves. I'm going to have my time. I'm going to take my time, but honestly, man, if you could buy it at the highs for the day, sell it at the lows, and or even hold it the next day, you could potentially make some decent amount of money on NVIDIA. I actually, on Friday, I played it both ways. I played a put option right away, sold it, and then I bought a call option because then I noticed it kind of making a little bit of a recovery, kind of a V shape. And then honestly, I think I sold it at the 174.9 level. I could have held it a little bit longer, maybe made a little bit more money, but I just wanted to, take a decent amount of profit because right now, I think the S&P 500 hasn't moved more than 1% in a while. I think yesterday or Friday was the first day that it moved more than 1%. But with that being said, it was like 29 days or something like that where it hasn't moved more than 1% in one direction. So honestly, that's where you got to just cut your losses a little bit shorter or cut your gains a little bit shorter than normal. But next one we're going to talk about is Apple. Honestly, man, Apple is looking pretty good for a position play, a longer term position play to say. I'm going to be watching that 200 level. And if we can break below that, I'm personally watching that 195 right now to play like a call option 2 to 3 months out. Because this one can make you a decent amount of money, especially if we go to like a 30-minute time frame, how many times we bounce off like around that 200 level, a decent amount of times. So that's why I'm trying to wait until that 195 because we had greater bounces from that 195 level. So maybe 195 to that 197, we're going to buy those call options. And honestly, man, if we can get like a recovery like this and or even like this where we went up to like 207, normally we bounce back up to 207, maybe even 210. But if you can get a bounce like that, you can make a decent amount of money off some call options. So that's what I'm personally watching on Apple. I'm just kind of my patience, see how far we can fall down, and then get my long-term call option. Next one is going to be Palantir. Palantir is looking pretty good, and we have earnings. So literally, it's going to be on Monday, and like at before stock market open. So you're going to understand how this one is going to do. A lot of people is pumping this one up, so we might see a pump with this one. Might even bring like AMD, Nvidia, some other AI stocks up with it. But with that being said, I'm not really going to give you guys any support and resistance until it comes out because we might have a big move. Like we seen that one day, bro. I think it was like at like 80 or something like that. We had earnings. It went like insane. Let me see if I can find it. Like right here, actually, I think it sold off on this one. I think it actually sold. Yeah, big move to the downside. We made a big move to the downside, and it was kind of insane. But I mean, if we do have a big move to the downside, you could scope out the bottom, like this one right here. Like we started at like 124, and it came like at around that $100 level. So if you can scope out a play like that, like do it and then buy it back, you guys can make a decent amount of money. That could be a good long term call. So if you do fall down, and maybe even fall down to like 47 to like that 45, you can make a decent amount of money on a long-term call option. So I do recommend scoping that out, looking at that, maybe potentially getting that play. But we're going to look at Bitcoin and crypto in general. We are looking like we're making a fall to the downside and honestly not really looking too good. We do have a short-term like a V-shaped recovery kind of. So we might be going to the upside even more. Watch that 119 for next and then maybe a pass that look like 125 if we can make a play to the upside overall with Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin, it can probably sell off with the overall stock market and then make a recovery as well. So this is one that you could probably get into, and some ticker to watch is IBIT. It's an ETF that moves with Bitcoin, and I do recommend getting into this one. It is pretty decent, and the options are relatively cheap. But with that being said, man, please take your time trading. Let me know what you guys are trading, and smash the like button, subscribe. Let's get to 500 subs. Check out those courses, first link in the description below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.